Welcome back and thank you for joining us for part 3 of this tutorial on how to apply for scholarships and awards using our Scholarship and Awards Management System. In this video, I'm going to guide you through the process of reviewing and completing all the sections in your SAMS Awards shopping cart in order to submit your application for entrance scholarships and awards at the University of Regina. Alright, let's continue on. After selecting Go to My Application, you will be taken to your shopping cart to begin reviewing the awards and completing the various award requirements. Just a reminder that before you can submit your application, you must complete all of the award requirements. Our system allows you to apply for all of the awards that you feel that you will qualify for with one application. This is a more streamlined process rather than needing to complete several applications separately. On the right-hand side, you will see 3 buttons: Save, Next, and Previous. Whenever you hit Next, your page will automatically be saved. But it is always a good idea to use the Save button to save your progress as you work on the application. First, let's look at the panel on the left-hand side of the screen. This is your shopping cart. You will see that your shopping cart is split into 2 sections. First is called the awards that I am applying for, or as I like to think about it, the list of awards that you have in the shopping cart and any award-specific requirements. Next is the section I must complete, or as I like to call it, a checklist of all the more general requirements that one or more of your awards require. The checklist will only populate with requirements if the awards in your shopping cart listed as a requirement. For example, because 2 of the awards in your shopping cart require you to complete a financial disclosure, that is why you see on the checklist a section titled Financial Disclosure. More on how to complete those sections will come later in the video. The very first thing that you should do is review the awards and their requirements again. You are just checking to ensure that the awards in your shopping cart continue to be the ones that you feel you will qualify for. This review is especially helpful as sometimes we have populated the shopping cart and prepared the required material before returning days or weeks later to complete the application. By reviewing, you are ensuring that what you originally added is still relevant to you. Complete any of these sections found directly under the awards. These sections are there because they apply only to the award that they are under. In other words, they are specific only to that award. For example, the Allan Blakeney Entrance Scholarship requires students to have their high school principal complete and submit a reference letter. The reference letter will only apply for the Allan Blakeney Entrance Scholarship and no other awards. Because reference letters must come from the referee, or in other words, the person required to write the letter, all you need to do for this section is select Yes in response to the Do you meet this requirement question. Ignore the submission option completely for reference letters. Note about reference letters. First, ensure that you are asking the correct person to complete the reference letter. If the award requires that it be from your principal, then it must come from your principal, not your teacher or guidance counselor. 2. Ask the referee early to write the letter. They're busy people, and you'll want to ensure that they have time to write the letter properly. 3. Provide the referee with the parameters of the award, some information about yourself relevant to the requirements, the deadline for the submission of the letter, as well as the email address for where the referee needs to send it. In our case, the reference letters are due the same date as the applications are due, which is March 15th, and the email that they can use to send the reference letters in is the safa@uregina.ca email. 4. Make sure to ask them to include your name and the award that the letter goes to within their submission email. We need to be able to know who the letter is for and which award it is responding to. Finally, a pro tip. Bring the referee a coffee or a treat. It is a great way to show them that you appreciate their help. Another section that could show up under an award is the personal statement or essay. This is completely separate from the personal statement in the checklist section. It shows up as an other requirement because this award is asking for a personal essay that is more specific than the more general personal statement listed in the checklist section. Read the award carefully and make sure that you are responding to the award requirements for your statement. For example, the Gelita Pacers Entrance Award requires a personal statement that outlines how you have overcome adversity, such as being a single parent, having a disability, experiencing economic difficulties, or challenging family situation, or as an immigrant coming to Canada. This specific personal statement will be uploaded in this section using the Files button. You will not need to include this specific award criteria in the general personal statement under your checklist section, as it is addressed in this award's personal statement separately. Most of the other requirement sections merely ask if you meet the requirements, in which you should select yes if you do, or to include additional information. For example, the CAA Sask Entrance Award requires students to confirm that they or their parents are a CAA member and if they've participated in a high school safety patrol program. Once you have reviewed all of the awards and completed any sections that showed up directly underneath the award listing, it is now time to complete the checklist section of the shopping cart. I would recommend that you make a note of these sections and complete them in a separate document before you include them on the actual application. This way you can work your way through the requirements and have them reviewed by parents or supporters and teachers to ensure that they are the best possible quality. Now let's go through each of the sections in the checklist that could populate based on your award selection. Just a reminder, if the awards that you have added to your shopping cart do not call for a particular section, for example, a personal statement, it will not appear in the checklist. I have curated my shopping cart to ensure that it includes awards that will require a variety of sections for the purpose of this demonstration. Your individual shopping cart may look very different. The first section that will appear is the declaration section. This is where you declare that all the information you have provided in the application is true and valid. You also consent to the U of R sharing this information with award selection committees and donors. We take privacy seriously at the U of R and do not share your data with anyone outside of those who are dictated in the declaration statement. We also comply with all provincial privacy acts, and be sure to read the declaration so that you are informed and comfortable with the policies it contains. If you have questions, be sure to reach out to us. Respond to the prompts at the bottom of the page. The next section that could appear in the checklist is the financial disclosure. I recommend that you complete this section after you've discussed your educational funding plan with your parents or supporters. By discussing your financial plan with your parent or supporter, you will be able to get a sense of A, if they have any savings, RESPs, or other funding options for you already, or B, what other funding opportunities are available to you. For example, my parents could not pay for my education, so with their help, we looked into other funding options, including applying for a student loan or student line of credit, etc. Having this conversation in advance of completing this section will allow you to have a better understanding of your personal financial plans and needs. The financial disclosure is used to assess your potential income for the upcoming fall semester, not your entire first year. So when determining amounts to enter into this form, budget for one semester. One way to do this is to divide by 8. A typical academic year for most students is divided into 2 semesters, and we often plan for a degree to take about 4 years, which equals 8 semesters. That being said, each student has unique situations and goals which can change over time, so estimate to the best of your ability. Please do not stress if your dollar amounts are not accurate down to the cent. The financial disclosure is separated into 2 sections, expenses and resources. Under the expenses section, we use a few different criteria to estimate how much school is going to cost you. We use the same basic parameters as Sask student loans. Under the resources section is where you disclose what resources you have access to in order to pay for your first semester of school. Let me show you how to complete these sections. First, under expenses, indicate which faculty you are planning to study under, and the number of classes you plan at this time to register in come April. Remember that one standard class at the U of R is equivalent to 3 credit hours. Next, indicate which living option will best represent your potential situation in the fall. There are 4 options: single student living away from home, single student living at home, a single parent student, or a married student and spouse. Sometimes students will say to me, "I'm in a relationship. Does this mean that I'm not considered single?" The answer is no. In the eyes of the government, unless you are legally married or have claimed common law status, you are considered single. So although I have a partner, I'm still considered single in the eyes of the government. We use this same criteria. So for this example, I chose the Faculty of Nursing, indicated that I plan to take 15 credit hours or 5 classes in the fall semester, and that I'm a single student living away from home. Next, you can list the number of dependents living with you if you indicated above that you had children. Include any other expenses such as alimony, child support, disability expenses, or medical expenses not covered. Do not include car payments, rent, or credit cards. Include an explanation, if possible, for any other expenses that you listed. For this example, I have left all these blank as they do not pertain to my current situation. Finally, under resources, you will indicate any resources that you currently know you have to contribute towards 1 semester of your education. If a section does not pertain to you, leave it blank. Personal savings should include money that you have in your savings that you plan to use for school. If you have some money in your savings that you plan to use to help pay for your education, include only the amount that you will use for 1 semester. For example, if you have $3,000 saved for university, but plan to only use $500 for the fall semester, then only indicate the $500 in the personal savings section. This process will be the same for the RESPs and other similar funds. For example, if your parents have $10,000 in total saved in RESPs, but plan to only use $2,000 for the semester, then only indicate the $2,000 in the appropriate space. For the scholarships, awards, and bursary section, if you have already received some funds, include them here. For example, if you've received a U of R automatic entrance award, the entire amount can be included here as it will be applied to your student account in the fall for that semester's tuition. But for these SAMS awards, you do not currently know if you will receive any, so do not include any anticipated award funds. The same goes for band funding and student loans. You've not been able to apply for them yet, so you do not know what amount of funding you will receive. Feel free to leave these sections blank. Only include funds that you know for sure that you will have. If you're like me and every section of the resource is blank, that is okay. Once you complete all the sections on the form, select the Save button. This will populate the form with totals based on the criteria that you completed under Expenses and Resources. Just a reminder that these totals are estimates. We all have different circumstances that will dictate our financial plan. Next is the personal statement. A personal statement is where you talk about your goals, skills, and why you are the right candidate for the award. For this section, I recommend that you refer to the notes you've made regarding 1. Which awards require a personal statement, and 2. What activities or interests they want you to talk about. This could include discussing your leadership activities or extracurricular involvement or participation in athletics. You will combine all of the information required for each award into 1 personal statement. So in this example, there are 3 awards that require a personal statement. The Agnes Stevenson Cook Award asks for applicants to demonstrate involvement in the community as a volunteer. The Allan Blakeney Entrance Scholarship wants applicants to demonstrate leadership qualities within institutions such as student government. The Professor Peter Venter Entrance Scholarship asks for applicants to demonstrate their contribution to the sport of rugby. You must now include those 3 requirements into 1 personal statement that is no longer than 1 page in length. You can find the personal statement requirements by reading each award's criteria. Feel free to have a teacher, parent, supporter, or guidance counselor read over the personal statement to check for spelling and grammatical errors. Sometimes these supporters will even remember other things to include in the statement that perhaps you forgot to include. You can upload a Word document or PDF using the Upload button on the screen under the Personal Statement section. Next, you will complete the extracurricular and volunteer sections. At the U of R, we separate extracurricular and volunteer opportunities. For SAMS applications, extracurricular activities will be where you enter all the activities that take place in school or on campus. In other words, anything that is organized or ran by your school. When completing this section, it will be helpful to create a spreadsheet that lists all of the extracurricular activities that you participate in and the different positions that you currently hold. I would organize this spreadsheet by each organization or group, as this is how you will fill out each blank form in this section. For example, I was heavily involved in Students Against Destructive Decisions, or SAD, in high school. This is how I would complete the form for that particular extracurricular activity. First, I would list the name of the organization. For this example, I have listed SAD. 2, under position, I listed all of the different positions that I held in SAD. So throughout the 5 years that I participated, I was the secretary, was part of the communications committee, the event planning committee, the fundraising committee, and treasurer. 3, I then included a rough start and end date of my involvement in that group. It doesn't have to be exact, just an estimate of the date. If you are still participating in this organization, you can leave the end date blank. Finally, I indicated if my involvement in the group was for school, work, or volunteer. Please note that a part-time job is not counted as extracurricular involvement. When the form has been fully filled out, you can select the next button and a new blank form will populate. Complete as many of these forms as you need until you have included all of your extracurricular activities. Then select Save and move to the Volunteer section. At the U of R, we consider volunteer activities to be activities that you participate in outside of school or off campus. This section is completed out identical to the extracurricular section. Complete as many forms as you have volunteer activities, then select Save and move to the final section. These last sections are also called Other Requirements, and they often ask the same question in several different ways. Each award is written differently, and therefore you just need to answer correctly what the requirements ask you. For example, because one of the awards requires you to be a resident of Saskatchewan, you need to select the Yes option, thereby indicating that you meet the requirement. Now that you've completed all the requirements, I recommend that you go back through each section and 1. Review the requirements, 2. Check that all the required documents have been attached properly, 3. Ensure that all the required forms have been fully filled out, and 4. Ensure that the information you included is correct. Now click here to go to Final Submission area. This is the last stop before you submit your application, and therefore is the last chance for you to do another final review to ensure that everything in your application is correct and completed. Once you are happy with the application, you can select Submit Application. This action will send off your application to our awards processors, who then distribute all the awards and required information off to the appropriate selection committees. The selection committees will then meet to select the recipients of the awards. Please note that once you submit your application, you can no longer make changes to it. SAMS awards are due on March 15th. If you submit your application well in advance of the deadline, and then realize you've made an error or you'd like to update it in some way, please email safa@uregina.ca. Just a reminder that after March 15th, that is no longer an option. Thanks so much for joining us. If you have any questions or concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out. We're here to help students and want to ensure that you are successful. Want an opportunity to see a human being go through this process in real time? Keep an eye out on our website for upcoming SAMS Awards workshops. Thanks for joining, and I hope to see you soon.